Andrew, welcome back to the show, my friend. How's it going?
Hey, well, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be back. I really appreciate you having me. Really, really well after that game. I've got a nice little pep in my step into the work week, and right now, still riding that high, feeling great.
Yeah, that was an awesome game, man. Obviously, it was a pretty scary first half because they looked a little lethargic. They weren't able to convert any chances. LAFC looked like they were probably going to, roll with or run away with the match. But then the second half came and it was just absolutely electric. We actually had a friend, the guy that came on the show with us when we did the preview, is part
Hmm.
of the Voice of Black and Gold. So his co-host Nick Chastain came on my live stream for the watch along,
Oh,
and he was
sweet.
like talking about how LAFC is going to win. They look at they're rolling right now, and he actually said on his podcast last night that he jinxed them. If you're enjoying the video, please make sure you give it a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video to help the channel grow. I appreciate all the help. Now back onto the video because he was talking all that smack and saying that they were going to win. And then literally after that is when they absolutely got rolled. So let me ask you this because you were at the match. I'm sure it was electric. Maybe, like I said, the first half was kind of a little dead and people were worried.
Absolutely.
But what was your overall feel of the match in person and like what was the vibe at the game?
It was a roller coaster that at the end sort of just, it felt like it just never ended, It really felt like a wonderland. I don't know about Disneyland being the most magical place of the world. Dignity Health Sports Park really, really felt like it for a minute. But like you mentioned, that first half, it was scary times. Absolutely. 5 minutes in and there's a goal is kind of a little punch to the gut, especially we talked about it in the preview. I was really excited, really looking forward to it. So I wasn't expecting that sort of start at all. So to see that, I was like, wow, okay, maybe I have to temper my expectations. And then not even like 10 minutes later, they score that second. It's all of a sudden it's a lot of punches to the gut really, really early on. You're like, damn, I really need to start reconsidering things. You start picturing how the game goes, but with the Galaxy, you're always aware that they are a second half team. Josh of Corner of the Galaxy, one of my favorite reporters out there, he mentioned that the Galaxy are, in his opinion, and I would agree with him, the best team at coming back in the second half in MLS, or one of the best. They seem to make those adjustments and have been able to get points from losing positions multiple times, and in this case, they were able to really turn it around in a really impressive way and get three. So it's like, I think a roller coaster really is my favorite way to describe it, but definitely electric by the end there, and there was just so much at stake afterwards. So a lot to enjoy beyond just the bragging rights. Having a great game in person is there's it really means so much moving forward to the playoff race. So I've got no complaints. I'm definitely still buzzing, and yeah, just super stoked with it.
Yeah, so I actually think that it's close between LA Galaxy and Inter Miami. Inter Miami is another team that can just turn on a dime and just absolutely blow the opponent out of the water and just a flurry of goals they can score easily. Um, Now, when I was watching the game, obviously a lot of eyes were on Ricky Puig, right? Because he has struggled in the last three El Traficos and all, more specifically the first two this season. But I would say the last three. Last
Mhm.
game I remember him having against LAFC that was decent was the Rose Bowl and the 4th of July last year when they
Right.
won. But he had a good game. All eyes were on him. And I was kind of struggling with this about who I thought was the man of the match, who I thought was the most important player. And the two people that I really struggled with, because I do think Ricky Pooch had a very good game, but man, I believe that Jovic really stepped up for this team because if it wasn't for that nice turnaround and that score to put them on the board,
So
I
good.
don't know.
My
I,
God.
I don't know if this would have happened. I don't know if we'd be sitting here today saying the LA Galaxy won the third El Trafico match of the season. I think that um, Jovic is the one who really ignited this scoring frenzy, and he scored two. Right, he had a brace. So
Hmm.
I really struggled with that one. Obviously, they're probably going to give it to Puig because this is his first good El Trafico performance in a while. But man, Jovic really came through and had a big game for the LA Galaxy this past
Yeah.
weekend.
No, I absolutely agree. That first goal, to me, is unreal. There's a lot of him and Surreal's goal, obviously contenders for goal of the night, but Dejon's, just from a technical perspective, the touch to send the defender one way, the way he scooped it around to go completely the other way. He sent him to the shops. It's just tidy. 2 touches, space, and blasted into the top corner. It's my God, un golazo. I was telling you earlier, I was definitely glad I wasn't in the press box for that goal because I went crazy. I really really enjoyed that. It was such a satisfying goal for a striker, for Dayon to come back from injury, his first start, to mark it with a goal like that and to give the Galaxy that spark, that jump start they needed in the second half. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? That's what you need from your striker. The Galaxy thrive with the number 9, and we have him. We've been cultivating Dayon for the past couple of years now. And last season, he started coming good. Injury sort of hindered him. So to see him really come up, be this important for the Galaxy when they need him to be, it's really, really satisfying for sure. And I'm sure he felt that way.
So who would you give the man of the match to? Would you give it to him or would you give it to Puig?
Puig had a crazy stat line at the end of the game. I can't even begin to list all the things, but everything is like 9 out of just, it was pretty much a 10 out of 10 performance from him. Coming from the pressure was on with him not having those best performances in the past couple of El Traficos. So he really, really delivered. He came back to the press box, spoke to reporters after that. I would have to give it to him. Especially because the second goal for Dayon's brace, it could have been a Puig brace as well. That kind of tilts the scales.
That kill was crazy though, man. That kill was crazy.
Definitely.
That was beautiful.
No, all of the goals, man. It was just really, really great goals in that game. So for me, it would be Puig. I think his stat line at the end of it was just impressive, and the pressure was on him specifically. He got the spotlight. He performed.
Yeah, I would agree that I mean, I could go either way. I do think Puig had one of the best games, not only of the last couple out traffic goes, but maybe one of the best games he's had all season, which they desperately needed because we know your friend Alex Ruiz had the post about how little chances Puig has created over the last several games, and Ricky Puig even quote tweeted him and like I guess gave him
Yeah,
a little bit of a hard time with that
definitely a good
post.
moment.
But
Yeah.
the stats were true, right? He has struggled the last couple matches. Now, one player that I think didn't really perform very well. Not to say they were bad, but not to the normal level we're expecting. Was Gabriel Peck? I mean, we talked about him in the preview about how he really needed to step up and probably score and have a great
Mhm.
game. And I wouldn't say he was bad, but I would say that the LAFC were very good at neutralizing him, kind of like stopping him from getting in rhythm.
Mhm.
Luckily enough, Jovic had a great game, like we said. Luckily enough, Cerrillo and Puig had a good enough game to carry the load. But were you surprised that Gabriel Peck didn't really make much noise in this match?
Honestly, not necessarily. He wasn't super. His stats didn't stand out, but I felt like I consistently noticed him driving the Galaxy forward or getting the Galaxy in those dangerous positions. He seemed to just creep up to the LAFC's box so often and would lay it off. He did make a couple of bad calls, a couple of times, like trying to shoot or dribble himself instead of laying it off to Pooch. There's this really, really clear chance in the second half where that stood out, but I felt he was really important for getting the Galaxy up and especially keeping that pressure in the second half. Uh, so he didn't score, but he did assist. He was able to find Dayon inside the box for that first goal. And if you watch the highlights, I feel like a lot of those clips start with him on the ball starting to play. So maybe he didn't score, sure, but I was definitely not mad at his performance.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he was just bad or anything, but when I watched him in the first half, more specifically, what I'm used to him doing is cooking fullbacks and just having his way inside the box and
He's a highlight
having
reel.
some good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they were just it felt like the LAFC players were maybe a step ahead of him, so he couldn't really get going in the first half. I mean, the LAFC did a very good job in the first half at neutralizing the attack for LA Galaxy. They couldn't really get anything going.
Yeah.
So they did do a very good job, obviously, opening things up in the second half. Now, how did you feel about Marco Royce's first El Trafico appearance? Did you think he had a good game, or do you think he kind of was just maybe average?
Um, I don't want to sound like I'm just glazing Galaxy players for the sake of it, but I thought Royce was another quietly brilliant performance from him. He put in a really good shift his first 90 minutes in a Galaxy shirt, and he put in a really good shift, I felt, on both sides of the ball. I don't have his stats for ball recoveries, but it really stood out on Puig's goal where he he's putting in that work, doing the dirty work in the midfield, and then driving it up and laying it off to Puig, and his timing and everything. In that goal specifically, you can see the way he hesitates and kind of just fakes it and cuts it really sharply across the defender to find him in that space for the shot. There's just so many of those details. You could spend hours breaking down his little touches. I felt he had a really good one in that sense. And in a game where you didn't start Mark Delgado, he wasn't obviously going to replace him, but I felt he put in a shift on the defensive side of the ball as well. So I felt he was very important for the Galaxy, and that's what we're gonna want from Roy, someone who's really gonna get them ticking and in that positive direction. I felt like he was important at sustaining that pressure. Again, the Galaxy did a really, really great job of that. They were on top of that game. Really, halfway through the second match, they started getting a grip, but by the second, man, they really had their foot on LAFC's neck, and I felt like Marco Reus was a big part of that. There's so many players you could list, but Reus for sure.
Yeah, so the only players that I would say probably had a bad game, in my opinion, is I think that Yoshida had a really bad first half. I don't think he did very well. I think Jalen Neal had a couple slip ups in the first half, but I think he settled in the second half. He had a really strong second half.
Definitely.
But the back line is just such a concern, and they really need to get that solidified, or at least it's not, Andrew. It's not even that they have to be great; they just cannot give up these crucial goals from boneheaded mistakes.
Right.
And you just can't do that. You're going to have to at least, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be at least average. And I'm just afraid they can't even do that. Yoshida, I mean, he was okay last year. So he had some solid performances, but he is 36 years old. Father Time is definitely about to call his number, especially his playing days. And I just don't know how much left he has to give. And Jalen Neal has missed a lot of time this year. So he's still trying to find his footing and get in form and kind of like get some chemistry with Yoshida, because I don't think Yoshida and Jalen Neal really have that much time together as a center back duo with their time together. Because I think what was it, Castris? He mostly played with Yoshida most of the time. When I think of the Yoshida's time with the Galaxy, so I think that they're still building some chemistry. And I don't know. I just think the center backs are probably the weak spot of the game. But like I said, they did seem to figure it out in the second half. They didn't concede a goal in the whole entire second half. But that's got to be fixed, because most of the time you can't. If you're down 2-0, you're climbing yourself out of a hole. Like it's
Absolutely.
hard. It's hard to come back from a 2-0 deficit.
No, I definitely agree with that. We saw this so much last year as well, but the Galaxy can't keep getting themselves in positions to have to outscore themselves out of deficits. That's definitely true. But I wouldn't worry. I don't think I had too many defensive worries in this game. Greg Vanney in the press conference, he mentioned that those first two goals that came in the first 15 minutes, and the Galaxy had a bad start mainly because they planned the game incorrectly. They said that LFC surprised them with how they came out, and that's why at the beginning Mickey Amane was so high up the pitch. It caused Jalen Nail to get isolated against Bouanga, which is not a situation you want. You don't want to isolate Bouanga against any of your defenders, especially Jalen Neal, who's someone you want to protect as much as you can. That's why I think he's been playing so much with Maya Yoshida. Maya Yoshida is definitely someone who edifies him, makes him stronger, helps him keep his head. But I don't know. I felt okay defensively once they realized that LFC were playing differently than they expected, and they adapted to what the situation demanded. The Galaxy did start coming back in the match. You could start seeing it at the end of the first half. They were starting to dominate the ball a little bit, hold on to it, not really creating chances, but giving themselves a base to cut down that deficit a little. And that really helped them into the second half, where defensively they were really, really great. Jalen Neal, he really has to be commended, I think, for the comeback he had. That first half was super, super tough. He got cooked on both of those goals early on. That's really not going to be good for your confidence on a big game like that. But I think he's getting maturing pretty well mentally. He showed that he can persevere and put that behind him and focus on the next play and the next play and the next play and the next 85 minutes of plays. And I felt like he came up for most of them after a really shaky first half. That might be because the team didn't prep the game correctly. So I don't want to put too much on the defense, but
No, yeah, and like I said, I think he did settle in really well in the second half. I think the whole defense did. I think McCarthy had a pretty solid game. I think that the Bogusz goal wasn't his fault because no one was marking him. What is a goalkeeper supposed to do in a spot like that, especially when he's on the complete opposite side of the goal? And then I think the Bouanga goal was just a freak goal. I mean, that was a crazy angle.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just a really now. I'm sure you saw the picture by now. What did you think about Denny Bouanga having two handfuls of Jalen Neal's jersey, looking like that he was about ready to, they were about
Yeah.
ready to duke it out?
No, I can't believe he didn't get a yellow for that. That was pretty crazy. That image is just so shocking. It's peak El Trafico. Just these players literally at each other's throats, screaming at each other. I found that really, really funny because that was Dennis Bouanga reacting to not getting a penalty after flopping. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but a Galaxy fan posted a clip of that, of Dennis Bouanga's flop, saying the caption was just bruh. Dennis Bouanga reposted it, I think, kind of thinking, yeah, how did I not get a penalty? But in the video, it's in 4K. He's just flopping. There's not any contact there. And to think that that's what started that skirmish, it's really funny to me. So, but I don't know, little
You know,
brother things, you know?
Well, it's listen, it was one of the better games I can remember. And El Trafico never disappoints, but this one was just a little different. There was a sweep on the table for LAFC to be the first of the two teams to sweep the other in a regular season. That didn't happen, obviously, right?
I was so scared those
LAFC.
first couple minutes, though. I felt it coming. I didn't want to have to talk about that after the game. That was scary for sure.
Well, I knew that how these games work. I knew that there was going to be a second half to be played, and anything can happen, and you cannot predict an El Trafico score. There's so many different things that can happen because of this. I mean, truly, this is the most unpredictable game in MLS. It can, even if a team's up 3-0, like LAFC was on the LA Galaxy, the first time they ever played. Zlatan came in, scored a brace, and they ended up coming back and winning. So this game, nobody is safe, even if you're up 3-0. Let alone 2-0, right?
Right.
So this game did disappoint. It was the best. Honestly, I think this is the best El Trafico match in the last 2 years. I think it's better than the Rose Bowl game last year or any of the other ones, and I think it's better than the two. And obviously, it's not because of who won. It was just because of how crazy the game was. 6 goals in a game is highly entertaining.
Quite a script for sure.
And then Cerrillo's goal of the week, the banger. I mean, my God, I bet the whole stadium lost their mind when he scored that.
I lost my voice a little bit after. I was worried for having to ask questions, but oh my God, that's all you could say. What a strike. And for his first MLS career goal as well, I got to ask him in the press conference what it felt like to score that goal, but mostly to get the love from the fans after that. And I think it's just a big moment for him, he mentioned, because he needed a change. He talked about how a year ago, when he first came from Dallas, the transition was difficult for him. He said, I wasn't exactly happy. So that moment, I'm sure, felt really, really happy, felt like vindication for probably a difficult year. And for his team that when he joined was struggling in 13th place, and now he's with them. He helped take them to first place. To score a goal like that, to receive the love from the fans, I'm definitely sure it meant a lot for him. So a golazo that you just love on all levels, emotional, sporting wise as well. What a goal.
I lost my voice. When I was streaming, I was screaming at like all the goals and all the close goals, even Giroud's off the post goal, or off the post close goal. I was screaming, asking the chat, I'm like, dude, are you guys watching this? This is the craziest game I've seen all year. Like, oh my God, these are banger after banger, crazy goals, no fluke goals, right? All the goals were like were class. So that leads us into the next question to wrap this video up. Joseph Paintsil's hurt. I don't know what his timeline is of when he's supposedly returning. I would assume he'll probably be back for the playoffs, right?
That's news to me that he's hurt. Did that come out today or something? I know he was suspended for that last game.
Oh, I thought he was hurt. I thought they said he was hurt.
He had yellow card accumulation, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I thought because
I thought he didn't see something. Yeah.
Well, I know he had an injury at the beginning of the season as well. I think it was like maybe a hamstring injury or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I thought that maybe something like that was lingering again, because it can sometimes when you have that, it can just continuously come back throughout a season. Okay, so we have that clarified. Joseph Paintsil's not injured. Thank God, right? If you're a Galaxy fan,
he should start next game. Definitely.
Okay, so he'll be back next game. So this team is obviously very lethal. This team is very good. All right. And right now, they are in the driver's seat for the first place in the conference. They are, I want to say 48. So they're 7 points ahead of LAFC now. Now, LAFC does have 2 games in hand, but even if they won those 2 games, they would still be a point behind. So, with all that being said, how are you feeling? 55 points, first place in the Western Conference. Are they going to seal the deal?
I can't help but feel that way right now, but it really depends on how this team travels. We know that they're fantastic on the road. You see those, they have 5 games coming up. You see those 2 home games. You think, okay, that's 6 points at this point. You need to make them 6 points. Well, because on the road, it's been difficult. All of their losses this year have been on the road, not at Dignity Health Sports Park. The team does struggle to travel. They look amazing at home, well rested, playing in the California summer weather. It's pretty hard to beat, but coming off a plane, sleeping in a hotel, there's just so many little things that I've started to notice as I've traveled more and more for work. Traveling does take the life out of you. Sometimes I don't want to go to meetings or do whatever it is after traveling to play a full 90 minutes. I'm not going to be doing my best either. So it really, really does take a toll on these players, and that's something that they have to improve. If they can do that, they're in a really, really strong spot. LAFC can't catch up to them. They'd have to drop a lot of points, and the teams behind them would have to pick up a lot of points. So right now, there's quiet optimism for sure, but there's 15 points left to win or lose at this point for the Galaxy. Nothing's written in stone. 5 games with other teams having 7, 6 in hand. Things can happen, but when you look at the numbers and how the Galaxy have been, it looks good so far.
Yeah, so I'm looking at their schedule. So they play Portland tomorrow. They should be able to win that game. Then they play Vancouver at home. I mean, they haven't lost at home, so I seriously doubt that that's gonna change with Vancouver. Then they play Colorado. That could be a tricky game. That's going to be on the road. Colorado's been a pretty decent team this year. Now Austin FC at home, they should win that. And then Houston. So that's how they finished the season decision day. There's only 2 games on this schedule that I think they could lose, or it'll be hard. It would be Colorado and Houston. They should win the other 3, but they really probably need to win at least 3 of those matches, draw 1, and they can probably be afforded 1 loss if they want to cement themselves as the first place in the Western Conference. But if they do get that first place, Andrew, that's going to be huge because they haven't lost a game at home this year, and they will have their destiny will have to go the MLS Cup playoffs in the Western Conference will have to go through Dignity Health Sports Park. And they
Did you
proved
say that
that that's
again after? Sorry, but as a Galaxy fan coming after last season, I wouldn't have dreamed to be having talking about this. This conversation is pretty unreal, but yeah, they are in a really great position.
They are. And listen, we're going to be talking more about this. We're going to have you back on, obviously, to talk about the Galaxy, especially when the playoffs come around. And they for sure have made the playoffs, right? The Galaxy fans don't have to worry about will we, won't we? Yeah. They have clinched a playoff spot, and it looks like they will be the first place team in the Western Conference for the first time in, oh man, has it been a decade? Has it? I can't remember the last time.
That's what I saw. 10, 11 years.
Yes,
2011 might have been what I saw. So, but
maybe
it's been a while.
Yeah, so this will be the first time in a very long time and give them the best chance to win an MLS Cup since 2014. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We can't wait to have you back on, Andrew. Before I let you go, can you tell the fine people where they can find you at, where they can find your work, and where they can follow you?
Yeah, thanks so much, Will. You can find me on Twitter is where I'm most active for sure. That's NGF Andrew. You can read my articles for catch a coverage of the LA Galaxy as they get into the playoff on Los Angeles Sports Nation. I'm also on Instagram at Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera. We cover Orange County SC, Fiorentina, Real Madrid. We love soccer and, more than anything, the Galaxy. So hope to catch you guys and provide some coverage as the Galaxy get ready for an exciting end of the season.
Yeah, playoffs is right around the corner. It's going to be exciting to see what happens, see if the Galaxy can return and lift that MLS Cup trophy once again for the first time in a decade. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure you like it down below, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. And until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.